Happy German man sitting there tonight, as Dara said, biggest ever European victory. What a way to start off this tournament.
Very good start. Control the game from a word go. Scored two wonderful goals through our two youngest young prospects, Musiala and Wirtz, two wonderful goals. And then obviously with the sending off the penalty, the game was decided. The second half was like a training game. They didn't do an awful lot. A bit unfortunate to concede that goal, but obviously you can't really blame anyone because it's just an own goal comes off Rüdiger's head. Great start. Did we find anything out about Germany we didn't know before? Probably not, because I think Scotland did make it hard enough for the Germans. I think bigger tests in the group to come with Switzerland and Hungary. But we know what a good start can mean and do for the confidence of a team. So a lot of players got playing time. The forward players, most of them scored goals apart from Gundogan. So yeah, well done all round.
Yep, and all smiles tonight for Germany because they sit top of the table. They're off and running in Group A, and as Didi says, Hungary and Switzerland to play tomorrow. So they'll have a lot to say about it. But Scotland sitting at the bottom of the table, and they'll feel that they really want to get going very soon because they were just so disappointing, Shay. You know, they'll look at that table tonight and they'll feel we're better than this, that they should have given more to this on the opening game. It was a massive opportunity and they didn't take it.
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, I think, the timing of the goals as well. Steve Clarke obviously shaking hands there at the end. I think he conceded so early, the 10th minute and the 19th minute. And then in the third goal, a red card and a penalty just before half-time. They've got a mountain to climb after that. You know, there's no way back into the game. You know, Steve Clarke has some calls to make. You know, does he start with Hanley at the back or does he start with Pretorius, who got sent off? You know, that's the question he'll ask himself for the next game, perhaps. I know he can't play because he's suspended, but did he get that right? We talked about Shanklin as well, coming off the bench. Maybe he could have started instead of Che Adams and they missed out the press because in the first half, first 10, 20 minutes, they were trying to play from the back, Scotland, and Germany were all over them and creating chances. And you have to give yourself something to hang on to. And to concede two early goals, you've got no chance against this German team. And now the Scottish guys got to, I suppose, lick their wins and try and clear their heads for the next game.
Well, Didi talked about a lot of the second half feeling like a training game. Some of the first half felt that way too, Didi, or Richie, because Didi's right. This game was over from very early, and it's because of the pressure that the Germans put on.
Scotland couldn't live with them. Germany were at a different level completely. The game was settled in the first 45 minutes, but in reality in the first 20 minutes. There was no stage I can remember in that first half where Scotland looked as if they were capable of, you know, regrouping and going again and kind of shifting the momentum back in their favour at any spell. Neuer came close to keeping a clean sheet. It was probably the handiest clean sheet he would have kept. He had very little to do. Didi went through all the issues and questions around him beforehand. There's none answered about him tonight because he pretty much had a night off. But funnily enough, in the Scotland dressing room, that there will be voices in there saying, our plan is, we're still on course here. Our realistic aim coming here was to hope to get 4 points realistically from the next two games and try and make sure this night was a night that we didn't get a hammering in. Now, that part of it didn't go well, but I think they still can tell themselves there's 4 points in this group, but you don't know what the psychological damage of this is. Licking the wounds is the phrase you made. Like, how deep are the cuts from tonight?
I think the disappointing thing from Scotland's point of view is they tried to play, as Shay said, they tried to play out from the back. Now, if you are playing against a team that's technically superior, and that they knew that from the start, that Germany is a better team technically than them. Now, if you want to play, or if you try to beat them at their game, it never ends well. So it was always clear, if you try to play from the back, it's not going to work. And this is obviously a valid point from Shay to put a big man up top, because you knew Germany's not going to sit back in the first game. They can't play Scotland, playing in the home ground, playing in the home country, and they sit back. So it was always clear they're going to try and attack Scotland from the word go, and they didn't have an outlet, because at times you have to play a long ball, and then you need a physical player, which Che Adams is not, to maybe get a free kick, maybe keep hold of one or two balls. And this is what they did. They tried to play out from the back, lost the balls early, and what do? You invite pressure, and the pressure just got too much. Every attack, it felt like, is a goal-scoring opportunity for Germany. And the game was lost after 40 minutes. And now you can say, yeah, nothing is lost. But obviously you start the tournament now with 0 points and -4 goal difference. Now, if you win one game, you lose one, 3 points and -3, -4, -5 goal difference probably may not get you through. So that you're on the back foot, and they never really gave him a chance. It would be interesting to hear what the manager says, what the plan was, because, you know, they started the game and it was almost like watching Ireland. In the past, we criticised Ireland under Stephen Kenny when they tried to play it from the back, but they didn't have the resources to do that. Now, Scotland did the same thing tonight and got punished for that.
But this is an odd timing to try and defend Scotland's ability to play football, because tonight they didn't have any at all. But you remember the footage we showed before the game and the comments you made? You know, they're a decent team. They do have players in that midfield who can keep the ball. We showed Tierney and Robertson what they can do on their day. Like that phrase, on their day, no one was on their day. Anything that Scotland did well, this is a team that beat Spain 2-0 in qualifiers. They beat Norway 2-1. They qualified with a couple of games to spare, and they're going there thinking, we could do something no Scotland team has ever done, and it's kind of within our grasp. So it's not like they're completely out of their depth and they shouldn't have had the gall to try and pass. It's just tonight, they didn't have the quality, they didn't have the composure, they were making mistakes in the wrong area, and they're up against a team that just were of a different level.
But I think it's okay going into the game saying we tried to play from the back. But if you see after 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, because you saw what's going to come, because the first goal was coming, if you see after a few minutes, this is not going to work, you've got to go long, play in the own half.
Do you know, the only thing is, though, all of those things that you guys have outlined are right, but they can still do all that. They can still become that first Scottish team to reach the knockout stage. All they have to do is still get there. 4 points. You know what I mean? Nothing has changed.
But again, it's the first game. The German, as Didi said, the whole nation's up home. You know, they're playing at home, and again, Scotland should read that situation. Yes, there's 200,000 Scottish people in Munich and all cheering them on. But there's a full country behind the other team, and then it's the first game, the home game. They want to start off on a real positive note. So they're actually playing into their hands. It's just. It's easy to say that now.
Is there a golfing class between them, though?
Well, there is definitely after that.
Yeah.
Richie mentions, Spain and Norway, but they give themselves a foundation. They were really hard to beat, really solid. They give themselves nothing tonight to play from.
There's a golfing class, but that's exactly the thing. If there's a golfing class in terms of quality, you've got to try and drag the other team down to your level. And they didn't do that, because they said, we play your game and see who's the better footballer. Well, you know who's got better footballers. We saw that in the first half. So you've got to try to drag the other team back down to your level. And at no point in that game, Scotland tried to do that. And that was, for me, the disappointing thing, because the plan they had was never going to work. And if you do make mistakes, I can live with it. I don't understand that. But I think it's, in a way, a mental mistake, because you go into a game and trying to do something which can't be successful, and that's what they did.
I think if you go back to the start of the game, one of the things Scotland tried to do was to be as compact as possible in the middle of the park and like have 10 bodies right in front of the 18-yard box, which meant there was space out wide, and that's where the first goal came from. So all the plans you think you have go out the window when it goes 1-0 down after 10 or 11 minutes, because now you have to go, right, we can't just keep it compact in front of us because we've got to score. And anything they tried to do, they just weren't good enough to achieve it. And they offered so little resistance in defence at times. Gundogan was finding space between Scotland's defence line and Scotland midfield at ease. They just couldn't work that out at all. Musiala had the ball. He's just better dribbler than any of the Scottish players are as a defender. So left one-on-one, he was always going to come out on top in those battles, but it was just more quality all over the pitch, and what Scotland can do, they just couldn't do tonight at all.
Total golfing class, as you guys have said. But here in this one, in this Group A opener, it is Germany who have beaten Scotland by 5-1. We'll take a look at those second half goals, Richie, and the one thing that you guys said at half-time is if they could keep a clean sheet for the second half, they'd be doing well, and they just couldn't do it. They could not keep the ball out of the net.
No, they couldn't. I mean, you'd understand the messaging in the dressing room, but there's very little resistance here in this movement. You don't see many Scottish players kind of closing down the ball at Musiala. And here's a fortunate kind of breaks into the path of Fulkrug. But my God, what a finish. There's no keeper anywhere that could have reacted quick enough to save this. Look, it sits up lovely for him. Bullet into the corner of the net. So wonderful strike. But Scotland, in fairness to them, kept a clean sheet for over 20 minutes, 23 minutes of that second half, which I think was the height of their ambition, probably in the dressing room, when if they were to be honest about what they were going to hope for. But way too much of a gulfing class between the two of them, particularly when you have a man extra.
Yeah, and that is the difficulty, because even when they do score their goal, Shay, it's an OG, and even the players are feeling like they can't even celebrate this one.
Yeah, it comes from a set play. I know they've got a set play coach, obviously Robertson with a delivery, and I think it's Fulkirk actually flicks it on at the near post, and then it's McKenna who actually heads it off the back of Rudiger. But yeah, it's a bit of consolation you see for the Tartan Army. You see the Scottish fans singing at the end, you know, because they've scored a goal. I mean, Germany will be disappointed, and you know the stats after the game, which is remarkable, say that Scotland had no shots on goal, because this is obviously from a German player, Rudiger. It comes off, and he can't do much about it, to be honest, Jack. He just reacts, comes off his head, and it's a a consolation at best, but. Yeah, it'll give the fans something to sing of briefly, because obviously Germany score again after that, don't they?
Yeah, and even when you look at this one afterwards, they obviously have another goal chances. It's just absolutely relentless. And when Emre Can puts the ball in the back of the net, I think everybody's just willing for the referee to blow the match and call it off.
Yeah, I think they would have liked to call it off at half-time, the Scots. But yeah, they lost the second half 2-1, which I think is respectable. It still gives them a chance with the goal difference -4, but it's wonderfully worked. Comes back to Can. It takes a slight deflection. I thought at first the keeper's got to do better, but maybe we see it not in this one, the next one. He's taking the shot, the defender gets a slight touch on it, and it's just too far in the corner for Gunn. Here we see it. Comes off handily, takes a slight deflection. He gets a slight touch to it, but can't keep it out. Yeah, another good finish, and yeah, it's great. 5 goals, I think 5 different goal scorers. What do you want more? Emre Can only got to the squad a few days ago because Pavlovic got tonsillitis. He had to cancel his trip to the Euros, and just a great team performance all round. Where they tested, probably not enough, but obviously that's not down to Germany. They can only beat what's in front of them, and they did.
Just on that last goal, I know Darragh was asking in commentary, could he have got to that one? That's not an easy dive.
I was hoping I wasn't going to get asked there, but it's frustrating, for Angus, because you feel for him for the first goal as well. He got a really strong hand actually in the first goal, and he thought he'd saved it. And again, when you look at the replay, it's kind of gone underneath his hand a little bit. So if it was me personally, again, you get your hand to anything, you want to think you can get it around the post or onto a post or something, So, but the deflection definitely doesn't help him. Yeah. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, no, that's fair. What you're saying is you would have got it. Yeah.
I think because of the deflection, the ball dips a bit late.
Yeah,
maybe it was hard to judge for him because he saw it late. He couldn't save it.
Yeah, all right, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Definitely a hard night for him and a lot of the Scottish players. Well, credit to him, Richie. He's done a good job pre-match in talking up this team, but also fighting like a captain there, saying they've got to go again here. Yeah,
I think he was spot on. He didn't shy away from taking responsibility for their own failings, called himself and his teammates out, deflected any criticism that might have gone on to the manager away from the manager by saying it wasn't tactics, it was our inability to implement what we were told to do. I thought that was a touch of class. And then tried to take some positives from the second half and said, you know what, Rally, we have to go again. Brilliant interview. What
are the positives, Didi? That's the thing. What is he going to cling to when he's talking to his teammates?
Well, he just said it. Up until the last minute, they drew the second half. It was 1 each. Can scores a goal. They're down to 10 men against one of the favourites of the tournament. I think it was brilliant. One of the best interviews I've heard post-match, 2 or 3 minutes after the game. He said they dug in well, they made it hard for the Germans. There weren't an awful lot of chances, 2 goals, an offside goal. But apart from that, I think they did okay and had 1 or 2 chances or times where they attacked as well. And that's what we've got to take out of the game. Forget about the first half. The game was finished after 40 minutes. Obviously, you lost a player as well. But, you've got a squad of 26. Somebody else will come in. And now you've got the 2 games because they knew before. They probably said, well, maybe we can get something out of the game against Germany. But obviously, the 2 games are against Switzerland on Wednesday and then against Hungary 5 days after. And they still got every chance to go through. I don't think it diminished their chances an awful lot today. Because he said it, get your heads up, and that's what they do. If we know one thing about the Scots, they always come back, and that's what they'll do.
I think he said it there. It's the smallest of consolations, but I think there is some scope for taking some bit of pride or some reasons to praise themselves from the second half performance. Not because of how they opened up Germany or how they kept a clean sheet or how they were composed in the ball, but they stuck doggedly to a task, didn't drop their heads in a set of circumstances which are, in footballing terms, about as difficult as it can get. You're getting a hiding, and your aim is to avoid it being an almighty hiding. And that's tough, and they stuck to it, and they nearly drew the second half. So those are the kind of things you say in the second half, but there are deeper questions for them to answer. Like Andy Robertson said, why did we get what we do so wrong?
Well, that's the question for Steve Clarke. You guys know him well from being in the dressing room with him. What kind of a character is he, Shay? What's he going to be saying?
Me and Didi worked with him at Newcastle, and he was actually obviously assistant manager on the Root Hill, but he was relatively quiet. But I think he'd done a lot of the tactical stuff, a lot of the team shaping stuff, and it'd be interesting if we could hear from Steve tonight before we got off air. But what was the game plan? I know Andy Robertson spoke really well, and he spoke about they got the game plan wrong, but it'd be interesting to see if Steve Clarke comes out and says maybe we should have missed out the German press, or we should have maybe changed personnel or whatever. Maybe I got it wrong, because sometimes a manager can come out and take full responsibility, because what that does, it deflects away from the players. I always remember working under Kenny Dalglish as well. He would never throw the players under the bus. He'd always say, we were disappointed today, we have to do better. And then the players react on the back of what the manager says, in his interview as well. So the good thing about it, as the lads rightly says, is Switzerland and Hungary. They're not playing, I don't know, Italy or Croatia or England or whatever in the next two games. They've got a chance in the next two games. And as Andy rightly says, park this game to one side. This game's done. Get it out of your system, get it out of the way in the next 24 hours. And then Sunday they go back on the training pitch and work towards the next game.
And the biggest positive is probably at half-time, if you told me the game finishes 6 or 7-0, I would have said, yeah, there's a distinct possibility this is going to happen. And obviously they avoided that. Lost the game 5-1, which is bad enough, but after, at half-time, they probably would have taken a 5-1. So that's what you've got to take out of the game. And, you win on Wednesday, completely different ballgame.
What kind of a chance do you give him against Switzerland, Richie, based on the fact that now that will be psychologically difficult for them to come back at again? But as the lads have said, Switzerland is a game that they would have targeted.
It's an entirely different challenge, totally different set of circumstances, and I think their attitude can be different, because what they needed every card to fall their way tonight to get a result. They needed a goalkeeper to have the best game of his career. They needed to defend solidly. They needed Germany to have an off night. They needed to be absolutely lethal with the one or two attacks they got. That's what they needed to get a result from tonight. But the aims are much more modest against Switzerland. They don't have to be at their best, because they're not up against a pot one team. But there's no room for error anymore. That's the problem tonight. If they lose, they're gone. Because I don't think 3 points definitely won't be enough, we would assume, if your goal difference is as bad as they are. But it's about what Robertson said. It's about kind of just bouncing back now. They've all suffered defeats before. Everyone knows what it's like to take a kicking. Everyone knows what it's like to walk off a pitch and be bitterly disappointed that you didn't do what you've been waiting months to do. Footballers are able to get up and go, right, we're training, who's next? And that's what they have to do.
Yeah, well, it is a big job, because Steve Clarke did say 4 points is the magic number. That's what they're going to have to get. Yeah, not an easy one to do. Start better, believe in ourselves, and bring a better version of ourselves. Sounds simple, Shay.
It does, yeah, and it's difficult for any player after a hammering like that to come out and speak in front of the cameras, and especially when the German interviewer goes so direct with the first question. It was like, he's come out to the camera, because the easiest thing to do is to stay in the dressing room and not speak to anyone, because that's how you feel probably after the game. But again, by speaking, by sharing the problems, by sharing what they can do better, by getting it off your chest probably as much as anything, it'll help for the next game. And again, it's all about, I know it's the psychology, but I know there's sports psychology, and a lot of the teams use that now, but it's very important over the next couple of days, 24, 48 hours. Have to recover, with ice baths and protein shakes and all that stuff, but they have to get the mental side of things right as well. It's so important in a tournament, because the guy says it's 5 days, it's not next week or 10 days' time. The games come so quick and fast, and if you're still thinking about this game when they play Switzerland in 5 days' time, then you're gone. So it's so important to park this to one side.
Yeah, well, that's definitely what they're going to want to do, because it has been a sobering night for Scottish fans.